Most beginner gardeners think they need to fail a few times before they can grow real food. They picture themselves struggling with complicated techniques, fighting pests, and watching plants wither while they figure things out. But here's what they don't realize. Some of the easiest vegetables to grow are also the most productive ones. And if you pick the right crops, your first container garden won't teach you failure, it will teach you success. Today we're counting down 9 vegetables that are perfect for beginners because they combine two things most people think are impossible together. They're incredibly easy to grow, and they produce an almost embarrassing amount of food. Some of these will reward you with harvests in under a month. Others will keep producing for months from a single plant. And by the time you reach number 1, you'll understand why beginners who start with these crops often become serious growers. Let's begin. Our journey to a productive garden starts right now. At number 9, we have radish. Radishes solve the biggest problem new gardeners face. They quit too early. Most people plant something, wait weeks with no results, and assume they've failed. Radishes eliminate that completely. In many cases, they're ready to harvest in under 30 days, giving you fast feedback that you're doing something right. Their compact size means they don't need deep containers. Even shallow pots or shoeboxes work perfectly. You get high productivity from minimal space and effort, producing dozens of roots from a single planting. Radishes are nearly impossible to kill and thrive in cooler weather, making them ideal for spring and fall. Even the greens are edible. One planting produces 2 harvests, roots and greens, from the same container. Radishes teach you that a simple pot can produce food faster than you ever imagined. That single success changes everything about how you approach gardening. At number 8, we have green onion. If there's one crop that proves how efficient containers can be, it's green onions. And beginners need to see this proof as soon as possible. They grow straight upward instead of spreading outward, which means one narrow container can hold dozens of plants at once. But what truly makes them special is how they regrow. Cut the green tops, leave the roots in the soil, and many will keep producing. That transforms one planting into multiple harvests spanning weeks or even months. The primary advantage green onions offer beginners is immediate usefulness. Unlike some crops that feel experimental, green onions go into everyday meals. Eggs, soups, noodles, rice dishes, and salads. The moment you harvest your first bunch and use it in dinner, you cross a psychological threshold. You're not just growing, you're feeding yourself. That motivation keeps beginners going. Another huge advantage is cost efficiency. Some growers don't even start from seed. They regrow the white root portions from store-bought green onions directly in containers. That makes this one of the cheapest ways to start container gardening. A single pot by a sunny window can keep producing all season, and because you harvest frequently, it reinforces the habit of checking your garden daily. Small effort, constant return, and that consistency matters for building confidence. Green onions prove to beginners that containers aren't just for growing decorative plants. They're functional food systems that work in the smallest spaces. At number 7, we have lettuce. Lettuce is perfect for beginners because it breaks the myth that you need to commit to one harvest per plant. Most people assume you grow a head of lettuce, cut it down, and start over. But beginners who learn the right technique discover something better. You harvest just the outer leaves, leave the center intact, and the plant keeps growing. This cut and come again method transforms one container into weeks of reliable salad production. The primary benefit lettuce offers is density and speed. Several plants can grow together in one wide planter, and the whole setup starts producing harvestable leaves within just 2 to 3 weeks. For a beginner who planted their first seeds and was starting to doubt whether anything would happen, suddenly there's actual food ready to eat. That immediate payoff is powerful for building gardening habits. At number 6, we have beet. Beets are one of the smartest crops for beginner container gardeners because they deliver something unusual: 2 edible harvests from the same planting. Most beginners focus on the root, but while the beetroot develops underground, the green leafy tops are already producing food above soil. This means while you wait for the main harvest, you're already eating from that same container. It's like getting a bonus crop for free. The primary advantage beets offer beginners is controlled growing conditions. In hard garden soil, beetroots often become twisted or misshapen, But in containers with loose potting mix, roots develop evenly and beautifully. This immediately improves a beginner's success rate compared to traditional gardening. Several beets can grow in one pot, and the environment is so manageable that it feels less like gardening and more like a guaranteed system. Another compelling advantage is storage and longevity. Unlike delicate greens that wilt within days, harvested beets store for weeks or even months in a cool place. This means the container doesn't just produce fresh food for immediate eating. It produces food that lasts. For beginners, this is revolutionary. It proves that one pot can support both immediate harvest and stored harvest. That's a huge advantage for anyone trying to grow seriously in small spaces, and it changes how beginners think about what's actually possible. Beets show that one container can provide food now and food later, which makes the effort feel much more substantial. At number 5, we have bush bean. Bush beans are ideal for beginners because they stay compact and manageable while producing repeatedly and heavily. Unlike pole beans that require tall structures and complicated support systems, bush beans stay low and don't demand complex infrastructure. Yet, despite their small size, they can yield surprisingly large quantities of food. As long as you keep harvesting, they keep making more pods. That repeated cycle turns one pot into a dependable food source that rewards consistent attention. The primary benefit bush beans offer beginners is nutrition and substance. They add protein and fiber, making them feel more filling and valuable than many leafy greens. For beginners who worry whether container gardening can produce real food, bush beans answer that question immediately. Each pod is substantial enough that the harvest feels meaningful. You're not just harvesting handfuls of leaves, you're picking actual vegetables that transform into complete meals. At number 4, we have kale. Kale is one of the most dependable crops you can recommend to beginners because it transforms a single plant into a long-term food source that keeps producing for months. Unlike vegetables that get harvested once and removed, kale responds to harvesting by making more leaves. You pick the outer leaves carefully and leave the center growing, and the plant simply continues expanding. This means one container can feed you for an entire season, instead of providing 1 or 2 meals. The primary advantage kale offers beginners is its upright, vertical growth. It uses space efficiently, making it ideal for small balconies or patios where every inch matters. The plant just keeps growing taller and bushier without spreading outward, so beginners don't feel like their container garden is taking over their limited space. And here's something that surprises many first-time growers. Kale actually performs better in cool weather. At number 3, we have pepper. Peppers are excellent for beginners because they combine compact growth with impressively long production cycles. They don't sprawl across containers or demand complicated pruning, yet they keep producing fruit for months straight. One healthy plant can generate dozens of peppers over an entire season, especially if you harvest regularly. This makes them ideal for beginners who want to see continuous success rather than one dramatic harvest. The primary advantage peppers offer beginners is how containers benefit this crop specifically. Containers warm up faster than ground soil, and peppers absolutely love warm roots. This head start often leads to stronger growth and better yields than beginners would get in cooler ground soil. Plus, peppers come in so many varieties: bell peppers, jalapenos, banana peppers, cayenne, that beginners can experiment and find flavors they actually want to eat. There's something motivating about growing the exact ingredients you use in your favorite meals. Another huge advantage for beginners is visual feedback and satisfaction. Seeing bright red, yellow, or orange peppers hanging from a single plant makes the entire container garden feel abundant. The harvest feels obvious and impressive. And because peppers are versatile, eat them fresh, roast them, freeze them, dry them, make sauces, every harvest feels valuable and purposeful. For beginners who sometimes doubt whether their efforts matter, peppers provide undeniable proof that small space gardening works. Peppers prove that one simple pot can quietly become one of the most valuable parts of a beginner's entire garden. At number 2, we have cherry tomato. Cherry tomatoes may be one of the most beginner-friendly productive crops in existence. Give one plant a pot, a simple cage for support and sunlight, and it becomes a tower of fruit. Unlike larger tomato varieties that often produce in limited waves, cherry tomatoes can continue producing for months. One healthy plant may generate dozens or even hundreds of fruits over a season. That abundance is almost shocking for beginners who thought they'd get a handful of tomatoes if they were lucky. The primary advantage cherry tomatoes offer beginners is continuous, overwhelming productivity. The plant grows upward using vertical space instead of sprawling across valuable ground, which means beginners can fit high productivity into tight spaces. But more importantly, the sheer number of tomatoes a single plant produces makes the entire effort feel worthwhile. At number 1, we have sweet potato. Sweet potatoes dominate the list for beginners because they offer something almost no other crop can. 2 completely different edible harvests from a single plant. The roots develop underground into calorie-dense tubers, but the leafy vines growing above are also edible as greens. This means one container provides food during the growing season as you harvest leaves, and then again at harvest time when you dig up the tubers. Few crops offer that kind of efficiency or that much versatility from one planting. The primary advantage sweet potatoes offer beginners is their heat tolerance and the drama of the hidden harvest. They thrive in hot conditions. Containers naturally warm up in the sun, which encourages vigorous growth. As the vines spread across the pot, the plant might not look particularly impressive, but beneath the soil, tubers are forming the entire time. Then harvest day arrives, you empty the container, and suddenly potatoes spill out everywhere. That dramatic reveal makes a huge impression on beginners. It transforms a pot from something decorative into something magical. You're not just growing a plant, you're uncovering a hidden food reserve. Another compelling advantage is storage and nutrition. Sweet potatoes store well for weeks or months, providing long-term food security beyond harvest day. They deliver healthy calories and nutritious greens, plus stored food from a single planting. For beginners who worry whether container gardening can actually sustain them, sweet potatoes answer that question definitively. One pot becomes edible greens, then develops those deep roots, and stored food, a complete small space food system. Sweet potatoes prove to beginners that container gardening isn't a cute hobby. It's a serious way to produce food. What these 9 crops reveal to beginners is something fundamental. The size of your space isn't the limiting factor. The limitation is knowing which vegetables to grow and how to use containers as actual food systems rather than decoration. Each of these 9 crops proved something. One pot can grow salad, and another container can produce fresh, healthy roots, and another container creates climbing vertical growth, while another hides fresh food underground. And here's what happens when a beginner plants not just one, but multiple pots with the right crops. A small balcony or patio stops feeling limited. It starts feeling genuinely capable. That's the shift that changes everything. Once you understand that containers are powerful growing systems and not just small space compromises, even the smallest apartment balcony or patio becomes a place where serious food production happens. Start with these 9 crops and you won't just grow your confidence as a gardener, and you will grow abundance itself.